Here come the players, starting with Thiago Silva, followed by Gaga Slonina. Here comes Wesley Fofana, Enzo Fernandez, N'Golo Kanté. Here comes the skipper, Cesar Azpilicueta, followed by Benoit Badiashile, Noni Madueke, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Please welcome Edouard Mendy, Hakim Ziyech, Kerr, Mateo Kovacic, Raheem Sterling, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Conor Gallagher. Please welcome Trevor Chalobah, followed by Mikhailo Mudryk, Christian Pulisic. Please welcome Ben Chilwell.
Good evening all, welcome to the top of the stand here at Stamford Bridge for the big one. Forget Manchester, it's all about West London. And who's going to finish in the top half? Chelsea versus Brentford here tonight. Ben and Joe and Jason with you for this evening. The team news is in. I'll say a quick good evening to these two. Evening, Joe.
Evening, mate, how are you?
All right. Evening, Jason.
Evening, Benjamin.
There you go, that was a quick good evening. 3 changes is the news, folks. Otherwise, it is the same as Real Madrid in terms of its thinking. 3 at the back, 5 across with 3 midfielders and Conor Gallagher in support of a forward. That forward is one of the changes because it's Sterling, not Havertz, and the other 2 changes are the 2 wing-back positions. We know Reece James is now out for what remains of this campaign, so it's welcome back to Cesar Azpilicueta after a long time out, and on the other side Ben Chilwell is in. Thoughts on that, Mr. Cundy?
Well, the squad limitation has kind of narrowed it really down. So I was chatting to some Chelsea fans on the way in. If we play a 4, who plays right back, Ashby's name come into it. Play wing back, Ruben's name come into it. But I'm good. I'm glad Ashby's playing actually. You know, all that's gone on at the club in the last X amount of months, we've not seen enough of him, and there's a reasons for that, and we all get that, we all understand it. But I'm pleased actually. You know, I know one thing he's going to do out here. He's going to give absolutely everything that he has since he joined in 12. So delighted with that. Glad we've gone with a 3. I felt that the 4 that Frank chose in the previous games in the Premier League was the wrong choice. I couldn't quite work out why he'd done that, and we got punished. We are a better side with 3. Generally, with Reece one side and Chilwell there, but I think all round pitch-wise, I think our squad lends itself right. Our squad, I mean the squad, the size of it lends itself to anything. But I feel generally we're a better team, and we look better. I'm far more happier watching us with a 3.
Joe, there's a fair bit of criticism, which I actually thought was wrong about the Real Madrid selection of this, with people saying, oh, there's so many midfielders. But we saw the legs of Conor and N'Golo actually working in that game. It's just people couldn't put the finishing touches on things. But in principle, I kind of get why he's doing that. Does that ring true at home to Brentford as well?
I think it does. I think unfortunately we have to take a little bit of a step back and acknowledge where we are. You know, we are that team at the moment. We don't score a huge amount of goals, But the fact that we can get legs around players that can create things, and we've got that energy in the middle of the park. Like you said about Aspie, Connor gives you everything. Absolutely everything, doesn't he? He gives you everything. On and off the pitch, you know that he loves this football club and he'll do everything he can for this football club. The Real Madrid game, he got it bang on, because for 60 minutes against a team that will blow a lot of teams away, blew Liverpool at Anfield away, we were in the game, you know, and he had to stay in the game. Today's a little bit different, because it does feel like we have to start being a little bit more proactive, maybe. But that said, if we get to 60 minutes and we're 1-up, or, you know, even to the extent of the options that we've got on the bench to bring the players off the bench and change the game, can't say it's the wrong approach, because unfortunately Brentford are higher than us in the table, and we have to swallow that, really.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of that. I hear a lot of people, I'm sure you all do, saying, you know, we should be this, we should be doing that. The reality of it is, this season Chelsea are a mid-table football team. There's no getting away from that, because there it is, 11th. You know, that is happening and has been happening, and it's been happening under every coach, let's be honest. I take Jason's point on the leadership. Just on that again, Jay, people talking about leaders in this team, and if there's one thing Azpilicueta certainly is, it is that. Yeah. I mean, there's never been a bloke who hates losing more than him, no. And there has been fewer of those players over recent years, which might be, it's not just about quality, is it? It's about that kind of individual. You know, people who hate losing, people who win at all costs, whether that's a Ballack, a Terry, an Ashley Cole, Essie and Drogba, Costa, people who would like rather do anything on this earth than not win this football match.
I don't know too many people that want to lose football matches. I don't know a professional footballer. The reason you get to that height of the game is because you hate losing. Losing hurts, it stings.
But does it hurt this lot enough, though?
Well, so going back to the point you were just making there about having...
So it's a member of Chelsea staff. He's allowed to go wherever he likes. Very important. That is James Melbourne, very important tactical analyst who's feeding through back to me.
I love that he apologised as he was halfway through, which is fine. But going back to the point I was making is that, is there enough there, leaders? Because no one enjoys losing. Everyone hates losing. Some more than others, I grant you that. But are there enough out there that want to lead by example? And I'm going to go with the best I've seen in the Premier League. Roy Keane, let's go with that. John Terry, let's start with those two. Those two led in a different way. Aspie did in a lift. And what we're watching now is a club that's a little bit rudderless. And what we're seeing is now, and this has been not just this season, actually years gone by, that's been a criticism of Chelsea. Even though we've won and got to major finals, we have one major trophy. That's still been there. There's been an underlying theme. As soon as you start to not deliver, all of a sudden it becomes focal point. Because it's always been there, but actually we got away with it because we won the Champions League. I mean, look about the Champions League. You know, who are they then? Aspie. It's not littered. No. So I think what we're looking at now is a bit of a time. But I think the transfer window, biggest transfer window in Chelsea's recent history, is going to come up in the summer. Who stays? Who goes? Who do we bring in? There's all of that to consider. But going back to that, look, I'm a massive fan, as we all are. I don't think there's anyone here that isn't delighted to see Aspie wear that armband again.
So he and Thiago Silva, obviously a couple of older leaders there, amongst a squad that is largely youthful and has promised to be shaped. And with that in mind, that brings us to our first of our 3 points for 3 points tonight, and that is about using what is left to maybe give some of these younger players more time and build for the future and see what we get. You know, we don't know much about Carney Chukwuemeka yet. We don't know much about Noni Madueke yet. Or we've seen a bit of Mudryk, Joe. There's lots that we actually still want to see some more of, and all of them can do some impressing in these final weeks, right?
Absolutely right. Benoit Badiashile is another name that a lot of Chelsea fans are, been very impressed with the early signs that we've seen him. As you mentioned, Mykhailo Mudryk, Noni Madueke, and then as well, we forget we've got an incredible academy set up that has obviously lent itself in the recent years. Harvey Vale's back at the club playing football in the PL2. Mason Burstow's just won the PL2 Player of the Month award for being a centre forward that likes to shoot on sight, can be a physical presence, can be a focal point. There are lots of players at the football club. There have always been players at the football club. Given the opportunity, we'll take the opportunity. Now you look at the team, you look at the younger players, and whoever the next coach that comes in is, have an incredible squad to pick from. And not just that, like you've already mentioned, a squad to shape, a group of players to mould. So I think if you're a player and you're given the opportunity to play under Frank at the moment, firstly, it's a bit of a free hit the next few weeks, isn't it? You know, you've got an opportunity to show why you should be part of that next level for Chelsea, why you should be part of that new fresh start that will happen in the summer. And if you don't do that, there'll be enough teams that will offer you an olive branch and give you an opportunity to go and play, but you want to play here. You know, you want to play at the biggest teams in the world, and Chelsea are still that, you know, one of the biggest clubs in the world, and hopefully we'll see enough of that. Enzo's the one that jumps off the page because there's a lot of players, and Frank even spoke in the presser about how impressed he's been and the leadership qualities that we speak about that Enzo kind of that has in abundance as well. There's a lot to ask of these younger players, but for the first time in a long time, we're probably in a position where we can actually give them time because there isn't a rush at the moment. The next 4 or 5 weeks, there's not a huge amount you're going to learn about a player in a negative perspective, but you could learn a lot going forward.
Point number 2, top half finish. Some people are bothered by this, some people aren't. I always remember the blip season that has happened in all of our time being here, which is way too long, would be the Jose and then Gus Hiddink second time around. And that one just fizzled out, and it ended up 9th, Jason. I don't know if you remember that, but that was the position. We can't be having 11th. We can't be having worse than 9th, right? Or are you in the camp that says whether we're 7th or 12th? No.
There's
some pride, isn't there, in top half over bottom?
Going back to the point that you two were just talking about there about next season, I think next season has started already, actually. So listen, there's lots of talk about Pochettino, he's going to come or not. Looks like he's going to be the next cab off the rank. He's watching tonight, so we'll talk about that in a second. But these players that have got this opportunity, can we finish top half, or is it one of those where Chelsea have had a bad season? Do you know what? Maybe it's fine. 11th is or can we get 8th? Can we get 9th? That's what we got to look for. I don't want to come here and commentate on a game where, and I feel it's tough coming here right now. But as a player, your job is to go out and perform the best you can, as is ours up here. But I want to perform. I want to react to something I'm watching down there that sparks me. All right, that sparks the crowd. There are more games left. There are 3 home games left this season. Right, this is the first of those 3. Forest at home after that, and then the last game of the season against Newcastle, which is going to be tough. Can we start next season now?
With that in mind, you were just touching on it there. Our third point is, whoever it is, Poch or anyone else, you would think that has to be a factor for these players. Right? I mean, have you been in teams where you've known the manager is either gone or going, and
yes, but not
surely
like this.
You're thinking, maybe you're a player who is in the in crowd, but you think, oh well, I might not be, or you're a player who's, I don't know, Lewis Hall or Badiashile, who's thinking, this guy might pick me, actually. This is a new start for me. Either way, I would expect, regardless of the finishing position, that everyone out there will be playing for their futures, because they'll be all right. But you know what I mean?
No, say that.
Well, they sort of are, right?
At this football club, 100%. And I think that the mindset of the players have got it, and Frank has to remind them.
So you don't think there's any element of that sort of go through the motions now? You know the old on the beach thing about mid-table team.
All right.
I'm not saying it should be. I'm asking you. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think they'll be bang up for it because, as a player, you would be concerned for your future?
Well, okay. The opposite answer to that is, if you're not, then you don't deserve to be here next season. So I think that's what's got through your mind. And we spoke about the young players. There aren't many on the bench, but there's players in this team today that want to be here. There's players in the squad that maybe feel their future away. That's fine. But if you want to be at Chelsea Football Club next season, there's a manager watching that's going to come in next season, and he's watching you. He's watching how you perform, your attitude. Do you deliver when the chips are down? The chips are down right now. You've got to turn up. I'm not accepting second best. You turn up, you deliver. And tonight is an opportunity. It's Brentford at home. Come on, guys, come on. Show me what you've got for next season, because it's enormous what we're looking forward to over the next 12 to 18 months.
There's a lot going on to do with finances and balancing books, and I'm sure you've all heard and read the stories that obviously the biggest profit you can make is on homegrowns. But for instance, Joe, a couple who definitely come into that category, Jason just talking about there, who, I mean, Connor, by all accounts, might easily have disappeared in one of the recent windows. Trevor Chalobah, people are talking about maybe next season. But they're both starting tonight. They're both starting at the moment. Whoever it is, Poch or anyone else, they will feel, well, I don't care what happened 6 months ago. This is now. And if I nail this in these 6 weeks, I want whoever's watching to think, yeah, I want him in my team or my squad.
Oh, absolutely right. And look, obviously I'm going to be from a biased perspective as a Chelsea fan, but if you're a manager coming into this football club and you see players that, firstly, both Connor and Trevor, enormously versatile, can do a number of different roles in a number of different positions, number of different systems, but also secondly, understand what it's like to be at this football club, to play for this football club, but also to have dreamed for playing at this football club. You know, if I'm a manager walking in, the first people that I want to rely on are people that absolutely 100% see their top dream as being a Chelsea football player winning the biggest prizes. Now that's not you know, damning to anyone that wants to go abroad and play for Real Madrid or Barcelona, because that happens, that's football. But if you've got two pros that you know not only are fully committed, but also in Trevor's case, to sign a 6-year deal 8 months ago. In Connor's case, his Premier League experience for Crystal Palace. We know how good he can be at this level. Every time he gets an opportunity on the pitch as well, there's very rarely anybody that will leave Stamford Bridge thinking that he's given anything but 110% on the pitch, because he gives everything. But also, you know that you've got players that you can rely on, players that you know you can help, you can improve, but also players that you know want to be here long term, and want to be part of the solution for Chelsea Football Club. Not saying that other players don't, but if you've been here since you're 7, 8, 9 years old, and this is all you know, and this is the club that you've dreamed of playing. Conor Gallagher's from a family full of Chelsea fans. Every single one of them want him to be here and be a future captain or whatever. So they would be the first players that, to me, would stand out as a manager coming in going, I tell you what, I want to have a chat with those boys first, because if I can build the team around them, I don't have to worry about outside noise. I know everything that I'm going to get from these boys are going to be bang on to the money.
I'll just add to that. Someone told me at a very young age, someone's always watching. So it might not be their futures at Chelsea, but there might be someone at Everton, Crystal Palace, Leicester if they're in the Premier League. There's someone watching. So play your best, not just necessarily for this football club, but for yourself and your family. Do that justice. So put that performance in, because if your future doesn't lie here, don't let this be one of those performances where someone says, no, I saw him when he played a home game against Brentford, he sacked it off. Don't let that be the case.
Absolutely. Here. Right, folks, it's Trivago time. A reminder that wherever we go, Trivago is with us, and now they bring us here to the bridge to follow the warm-up of the Blues for this match against Brentford. Hashtag wherever you go wall. You know the Trivago wall, folks, you know about that. And they are out and they are warming up, and I can see them all down there, and I don't want anyone going through the motions. Let's have a look and see who is going through the motions. Anyone going through the motions down there? Jason can shout at them and tell them they're playing for their future.
I mean, it's a warm-up, right? I mean...
But nice to see him part of it. After that, he got the smack on the head against Southampton. People wondered if there was something a little bit sinister going on with that. He actually got a little knee problem at training after that, and that is what has kept him out. So it's been a couple of months without him. I mean, thank God, because wasn't that awful? That overhead kick from, I think it was Sekou Mara down there at the shed end, Joe. I mean, that was a long old stoppage, and you were fearing the worst, weren't you?
Absolutely, and whenever a player gets a head injury as well, it's always that sort of sickening silence that immediately comes around Stamford Bridge. And not that it's, you know, it's ever any better or worse for any player, but for a player that you know is always fully committed, and any half chance to be back on the pitch, he'd have given it. So you're absolutely right. When the silence was sort of deafening the weeks after, and we just didn't see him training, we didn't really see him involved in the picture, and there wasn't really many questions being asked about him either. But the fact that he's back involved today, and again, you know, a player that you know you can rely on, a player that's always going to give you a solid 8.5 out of 10 every single week. Even on a bad day, he's going to be, you know, up there with the hardest workers and the best performers. I just think with Aspie, he's the one that sets the tone, sets the level for the team around him, and the other two boys that you can see in shot there, in N'Golo Kanté and Thiago Silva likewise. If you're going onto a pitch at home, then you need players that are going to say from early, this is how we do it, this is what we go about. And like Jason said, if there's even a hint or a threat of complacency, you've got enough players on that pitch to say, no, this is not acceptable at this football club, this does not happen.
This is a guy that never dials it in, Jason. He's only played a handful of games this season under a handful of coaches, but I mean, I think the best individual performance I've seen this season was him against Liverpool, and it was his first game for 6 months. I mean, you've used the word freak of nature on many an occasion, but I mean, he's someone you can build your team around, right?
Well, he's certainly someone that you would like to think going forward he has a massive part to play. Ben, I remember doing a commentary here with you against Leicester, and he played, and I said, we should sign him. We've got to sign that man. I'd watched enough of him, and he's gone on to deliver everything that I think he's capable of. I've never seen anyone quite like winning the ball back all over the pitch. It doesn't matter what part of the pitch he plays, he wins the ball back. I've never seen anyone like it in world football ever. And he's not getting any younger. He's not going to be able to cover the inches or the. But you know what? You wouldn't know it. You would not know it.
Just want to keep him fit, right?
You just want to keep him fit. And maybe there is an argument to say that there's not as many miles on the clock. Maybe there is that argument to say, can we get another year and a half, 2 years out of him? I would love to keep him. Because I think what also he can do, his industry, Conor Gallagher can look at him and think, how can I learn off Gallagher? What does he never gives up. He continually goes. He's got a motor. He's got an engine that I've never seen. But yes, you're absolutely right. And he's one of those players, a World Cup winner. How many of these players now? I mean, who's going, who's staying? Thiago's staying. You know what he's won in the game. Want to keep those type of players as many as we can. But the squad needs trimming. So there's going to be some hard decisions to be made. Some really tough decisions to be made.
Want to see a bit more from Raheem, Joe. For his early weeks here, we were all saying, and rightly so, he looked like he'd slotted right in. Obviously, he's a guy who knows this league, and he just looked like a natural fit. Second half of the season, I know he's been in and out with injury, but he's been a bit quieter too. I mean, it's across the board, I suppose, with all the attacking players. The numbers are down for everyone, right? We've not even got a goal scorer in double figures. So Kai's on top with 9, I think, off the top of my head, as the top scorer here. But, I mean, he knows where the back of the net is when Bernardo Silva and Kevin De Bruyne are tucking it back to him from the byline, right? But this is different, right? He's sort of having to, well, not lead the line, but almost.
Completely. I think there's an element of every Chelsea fan you speak to has a different attacking 3 or 2 that they would start with and that they feel is the answer. I think the bigger question, and like we've seen all the way through the season, is the change in system. You know, you're asking Raheem to play essentially as a 9 today, when in reality he's won everything in the game, barring the Champions League with Manchester City, playing off the left. You know, he played for England in a 2 up front, but with the greatest of respects, when the 9 is Harry Kane, your job is very different to what you would do in a different 2 with a Kai Havertz, with a Joao Felix. So I think there is an element to that. You know, we are looking at a player that's being asked to do a different role. It's essentially like asking Trev to play right wing back all season, and then asking the question why he's not got the same outball as Reece James would have. Because they're different players, you know, they're different skill sets, they have different world-class abilities. Raheem Sterling has over 100 Premier League goals, over however many Champions League goals, has played his part in some magnificent Manchester City games and performances and squads. He's got all the ability in the world, and I've no doubt, in the right system, given time, and if he's given the correct responsibility as well, to perhaps say, look, you are that guy, you are the one that's got that experience, that has done it at this level, go out and lead this team, do that. I've no doubt that we'd see the best from Raheem. I think the difficulty is chopping and changing manager, chopping and changing system, chopping and changing personnel that he plays in and around. I'm sure, and Jason will be a lot better positioned to say it than I will be, but I'm sure players love consistency and knowing who's going to be where. You know, Raheem would love to have played 7, 8, 9, 10 games with Ben Chilwell as an out-and-out left wing-back, knowing he's going to be overlapping me on the left-hand side. I don't have to think twice that out-ball is there, or knowing that he's got an Olivier Giroud to be a foil off of as a 9 or something like that. I think there's so many questions to that, but I think in fairness, Raheem, like everybody else, is trying to do a job in a position that he's not the most familiar with, and he's not had the most success in previously in his career, and it's, I suppose, can be quite damning to label him with that sort of that tag when it's not the position that he's used to.
I think that there's a lot of reasons as to why Chelsea Football Club has failed this season, and I'm going to cut them a bit of slack, but only a very little bit. Joe's absolutely right. This football club has had zero stability in the last 12 months. And it all changed in March when Putin decided to march into Ukraine, and the course of Chelsea Football Club changed forever. Now, since then, the changes at this club, some have been good, some have been bad. You can debate that for another day. But I think players like Raheem Sterling coming at Chelsea, it wasn't the Chelsea that he played against that season before. We're a totally different football club. It's almost like we've been ripped up and started again, whether it be Bruce or Marino at the very top, the medical team, the recruitment officers, the scouting network, the backroom staff, the managerial seat, the boardroom, everything started again. So there's impacts on what's happened at this football club. But where I want to go to Raheem, I want, all of that. You come with a big pedigree. Big pedigree.
Medals.
You know, so when things are down, things aren't going so well, you kind of look. You look into those players. Come on, boys. I know it's tough. I know we're having a go. So I think there's more to come. I agree with Joe. There's more to come. But I wish I'd seen, and I feel a little bit like we've been so short on Raheem this season. I think there's more to come, and I think he knows it, and it's only down to him.
I suppose, I mean, I take your point entirely about the ripping up and start again. But the last 15 years here of success, they've not exactly been built on stability as such. I mean, in theory, it's gone against everything that we were always told, that you need stability to build things up. That hasn't happened. You know, 18 managerial appointments, 15 major trophies under Roman. You know, there's not a lot of stability there. But I suppose you did always have a core of players with winners' medals who are at that level. And now Raheem is the guy actually probably with the most medals out there. Obviously, Aspie's been there and done it. Kovacic has got a bit. Thiago Silva, yes, but we don't have as many. We haven't got as many with that much in the bank, have we, Joe?
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think there's certainly an element of we have always found a way. The stability has always been performances on the pitch. Even when you have a lull, you have a dip, something changes, something fixes, something goes right, and then 9-10 months down the line you can have the same conversation. But realistically, the consistency was on the pitch in terms of performance levels, in terms of the teams that win things. You know, even a bad season. I was chatting in the office earlier with a friend, and we were just saying in bad seasons Chelsea would still be in an FA Cup final, still be in a Carabao Cup final, and you talk about that as a poor season. But realistically, that's a poor season by our standard, because that's the levels that we've set here at this football club, on and off the pitch. You expect the best because that's what we are. The difficulty now is we are going for a period where things are changing, but also I think the wider landscape that we do forget about a little bit, because rightly so we're focused on Chelsea, but there are other teams that are attacking things in wildly different ways now as well.
Absolutely.
You know, you look at Manchester City. Man United are going to do the same at some point when they get new ownership. They're going to attack it. Newcastle at any point are going to attack it. Arsenal are doing things that none of us expected. So you are looking at a perspective when, in a different season, maybe even playing the way we are, we probably would find ourselves still 6th or 7th. And then you're talking about a poor season, but still a poor season, because this is Chelsea Football Club. This is a football club that dines out on those successes. You know, how many times have we all as Chelsea fans rubbed it in our friends' faces that we've won 2 Champions League trophies? Like, you know, we're talking to Arsenal fans and they're celebrating. You look at Spurs fans, you think Spurs fans are releasing a DVD for finishing 4th. We're talking about Champions League nights. Like, there's a difference to that level, and I think there is certainly an aspect we've got to get back to that, but also we do have to understand it's difficult to be patient. It's difficult to take a step back because we're used to that, but that is where we are at the moment, and this football club does tend to come together through difficult periods, and that's what we have to do at the moment.
Just a word on the Oppo. 3 changes tonight for Brentford. They brought in Mads Roerslev, Johan Wiese, who's caused Chelsea problems before, and Frank Onyeka. And they have a forward you wouldn't mind here, Jason?
Big fan, huge fan. He's got his troubles and his issues off the pitch at the moment with the FA. Ivan Toney, we're talking about. He's
19 Premier League goals this season.
Yeah, no, the boy. He's a Chelsea player, and all, you think about the sort of centre forwards we've had in the past, the sort of ones that this football club, I feel, needs right now. He ticks a lot of boxes for me. Aggressive, cool. He's got a lovely first touch. I think underrated with his first touch. Wins a lot of free kicks as well. He's and that's something we need to look out for today. I think he's the 3rd or 4th highest player in the Premier League at winning free kicks. He knows what he's doing.
It's like you're describing Harry Kane here.
Well, no, do you know what, though? He's one of those players, and I felt this at Didier when we first watched him. He had to grow into the physique. I think Harry Kane, actually, in his early parts of his days, was a bit soft. You know, you could push him around. He grew into his physique, and he understood what he had under the bonnet. I watched Didier develop and change as a player right in front of my eyes. I've seen Ivan Toney do that in the small time he's been in the Premier League. But he knows who he is now. He knows, I've got this barrel chest, I'm strong, I cause teams, defenders problems. And what he does, he now knows how to do it. He puts you right in situations, and I think I'd sign it. If it wasn't for the off-field antics, I'd go in for him. I think he's brilliant.
By all accounts, the Nkunku thing will be happening in the summer anyway. Something is amusing Mr. Cundy and Mr. Walker to our left. I want to know what it is now. I want to know what it is now.
Clive always looks at me when I'm
he likes you
when
getting
I'm doing my
excited.
analysis. Yes, I get very in. Very deep, yeah.
Brentford actually haven't won for a while either, Joe, funnily enough. I mean, they were genuinely in that European picture along with a lot of the other surprise clubs, you know, with Brighton and Fulham and people, Fulham falling away a bit, Brentford falling away a bit, Villa have gone rocketing up. But, you know, another really good season. They've seemingly got a smart, interesting coach in Thomas Frank as well.
There's a lot to like about Brentford, isn't there? You know, there is a lot to like as a...
And they won here last season, and he scored 2 goals for Italiano. That was a bit of a nightmare.
Less of that said, the better, really. They are a likeable team. You know, they've got a lot of players that are hard workers, and I think as a neutral football fan, you always like to see players that are grafting, are working hard, and you know, and obviously there's a big difference between these teams and then teams like Manchester City, which make it look effortless. But Brentford, it feels like they do have to sort of punch their way out for every single point, and I think there's a lot of players. You look through their team, there's an honest group in there as well. Players like Ben Mee that give you everything. Rico Henry, who I like at left back as well. Vitaly Yana, which you've already mentioned. There's a lot of players that have got a lot of that sort of steel and want about them. I think the difference is this season with how they're playing and how they're going about it. I think, like Jason said, Ivan Toney's the epitome of it. They're kind of acclimatised to the Premier League a little bit. There's a little bit of Ivan Toney now, and I think he leads it. He captains the team tonight, obviously, but he leads it with a little bit of a swagger and a little bit more of a... We're not here to take part now. We're actually, you know, we're very much a part of this group. You know, I think they beat Man United 4-0, didn't they, a long time ago, and I think as soon as you do that, you go, actually, do you know what? We're not going to be a part of that relegation pitch. We're far too good for that. There's a little bit of an arrogance, a little bit of a swagger about them when they play well, and I like that.
So I've noticed this season, and Joe's highlighted it to me, is that of all of the big managers in the Premier League that we went into back in a year ago going this season, I think only Pep has been the one that's kept that levels. So no one saw Arteta doing this. Eddie Howe, Frank, what we've seen, you know, Unai Emery do, what we've seen De Zerbi do. You know,
Marco Silva.
The managerial landscape in this country has really changed. When you go back to the big heads of last year, the heavyweights, you know, how many of them? Brendan Rodgers has moved along, you know, what he done up in Celtic. You think about Gary O'Neill. What's happened here? This season has been one for a new age manager coming, not always new age, but coming in and changing a football club. What Unai Emery has done at Aston Villa is nothing short of a miracle. 17th to 5th, and who they've overtaken in the past, and we're one of those sides, by the way. You know,
second best team in the league since he took over.
Klopp's failed. You know, we've seen managerial changes at this football club. Really strange, really odd season. But you know, I like going back to the point I was making. I like Thomas Frank. I like his no nonsense. I like the way he deals with the media, deals with the press. He's very open, very honest, and he's one of those managers. I think I'd like to play for you. I'd like to play for you.
There have been 28 games since Aston Villa. It was the second last game of Steven Gerrard's time in charge there. You may remember a bit of a bonkers match, actually. Kepa had an absolute worldie. 7 Chelsea wins, and that run started this 28 matches with only 7 wins in it, with a 0-0 at Brentford, actually. So let's hope we show him a bit more tonight. And can we have a goal, please? Here's the coach, Frank Lampard, talking pre-match.
Well, 7 games to go. I think it's very important that we understand the pride that's always at stake when you play for Chelsea. Fortunately for us as a club, we've always been, in the last 15-20 years, used to fighting for league titles, cups at this stage of the season. But I think kind of reality of the situation that isn't the position we're in. The players have lived that maybe for a bit longer than I have, but I don't think there's anything but every game that we play to the end of the season to show how we can play and get the right results. So it starts with Brentford. I think to play in a London derby against a Brentford team who have been really, really impressive in their time coming into the Premier League and will give us a really tough match. But we have to understand that we're at home. I think if we show the same spirit and an idea of how we played against Madrid in that first 60 minutes where the atmosphere was great, the players were working so hard in the collective, then of course I think we can face pretty much anybody and make a good showing of ourselves. So that's my absolute message to the players.
And we haven't really talked about him tonight, so let's do that now, boys. You know, everybody here loves him, and for obvious reasons. He needs it, right? I mean, this was a really interesting job. It was deemed as a, oh, this is nice. This puts him back out there in the spotlight. You know, he's thinking, blimey, I've had 4 games and I haven't won one yet. You know, this is big for him.
Oh, absolutely. Look, again, you've already mentioned it. I'll speak on behalf of every Chelsea fan. If there's some that don't agree with me, then I'll take it on the chin. But I absolutely love the man. I think he's fantastic. I think he epitomises everything that this football club has been over the last 20, 30 years. You know, he's a winner. He sets the standard. He said that in his first press conference back. He knows how to win games. He's been there. He knows what this football club's about. He is a legend. Now, this is not an easy job, and I think we've all seen that. And it's been probably even harder this year than it has been in previous years, and it's never been an easy job. But you're absolutely bang on. He needs this in terms of results, because at the moment probably doesn't do him any justice, the results that we're looking at. So that's the toughest part. I think he is very, very, very important that we get something tonight or in the next few weeks, because if there's anything that's going to come good of this from his second tenure here, he deserves the right for people to see the impact that he's making.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, first time round here, he had the squad that there was, plus those, minus those who departed. And we were thinking, it's a little bit of a struggle, but just about made the top 4. You know, and this time around, he's picking up a bit of a mess of the season and trying to do as good a tidy-up job as he can. And, you know, it does impact what he will do in the future as well. And, you know, clearly that is not going to be here right now because, you know, we understand things are moving and someone new's going to be coming in, Jason. But he's a guy who could very, very easily do a bit of TV punditry and play golf and have lots of lovely holidays. He's done very well out the game and his various business interests. And yet he wants to be a coach, doesn't he? I mean, he really wants to do it.
Yes, he does, and you know, he's had some good times.
And he's to be credited for that, actually.
Well, he's had some good times and some bad times. I mean, look, his record, there's a lot of stuff going on social media about his last 17, 18 games. He's managing 2 sides that have been in turmoil, certainly Everton. And Sean Dyche, by the way, he's got the 3rd defensive worst record since he's taken over at Everton. So, yeah, it's not like...
There were problems there before Frank got there, let's be honest.
Absolutely. But you know what, right? He's come here, and I felt Frank couldn't lose when he came here. I'm starting to doubt that a little bit now. He needs a win, because the next games that are coming up, they're tough. And they look tougher on paper. Even Bournemouth away. Look, I know the West Ham one. Look, tonight represents a great opportunity.
Well, the players are out the tunnel, folks, here at the Bridge. Chelsea in blue, Brentford in the red and white stripes with the black shorts and black socks. A summery sky, but still a little bit chilly here. I expect late April football to be a bit warm and pleasant. It's not really happening, let's be honest. But the neighbours are here, just a couple of miles down the road, through all the permanent roadworks and cones. It takes forever to get through, even though it's only down the road, but I need to let that one go.
They've been there